Darwin, how we're going to kick this off is the same style last as we did last time. But today I've got highly potent white clear super filtered vodka in here on ice,
Oh
also
my
known
God.
as water.
It's the purest of the purest.
Oh man, that's some good stuff right there. Oh yeah, Barbara. So we're going to do a little traditional financial happy hour toast. You got your coffee?
Yeah, but I got my coffee, sir, right
Okay,
here.
so what is in this cup of Joe?
So in this cup of Joe, it's your basic Kirkland brand Costco coffee.
Costco coffee, Kirkland, y'all. Go ahead.
Yeah,
What kind
but
of
it's
foo-foo you put in there?
yeah, kind of what?
What kind of foo-foo did you put in there?
I put in that's a secret, man. I can't share the
Yeah,
trade secret.
yeah, you can.
All right, it's some tequila, some white tequila, little spiked coffee to get
There
get the
we
blood
go.
flowing.
Oh man, it feels like a Friday happy hour to me. So with that being said, cheers to a successful show today. May
Salud.
those who tune in live and on the replay get a lot of value out of today. Salute. All right, so just like what we had with Mr. Victor the week before last, as he was a returning guest on the show, with you, we're going to treat you no different. We're going to pretend that you've never been on here before. So, if you could, just in a matter of a few brief moments, if you could first tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, let us get to know who Darwin Aguilera is.
So, where am I from? I am from a itty bitty town in the Bay Area. It's called Sunnyvale, California. I was actually born in San Jose. I am what you call a 90s baby. Um, and yeah, my story is a little simple, nothing too exciting. I grew up in a small town, went to high school here, went to some community colleges, ended up working in IT, and eventually got into the insurance industry back in 2020.
How did you make that transition from IT over to the insurance industry 5 years ago?
So I've always wanted to be in finance. And when I got into IT as an intern, there was an opportunity that opened up to me that I really wanted, but that got shut down. The reality was it got shut down really quickly. Somebody else had control of my destiny in the corporate world, right? So when the pandemic hit, I had a great job, but something in me told me if it's not now, then when, right? So I just buckled up and said, jump right in. And I jumped into the insurance world
Okay,
where,
so why did you always aspire to go into the financial world?
to be honest, probably because all the movies, growing up watching all these movies and all
Boiler
these
room,
like
things
Boiler
like that.
Room and yeah, like
Yeah.
stuff like that. And it always intrigued me. So I grew up working in a restaurant. My family owned a restaurant for about 25 years, a taqueria, and it's hard work, man, working, in the food service industry. So I wanted something different. I didn't want to, even though I love food, nothing wrong with owning restaurants and all that, but I wanted something where I can get back to my community. And what better way than teaching, financial literacy?
Tell me a little bit more about this. What you call it, taqueria?
Taqueria. So
Taqueria?
it was a hole in the wall Mexican food, taqueria with your favorite food, burritos, tacos, tortas,
Me?
enchiladas. Yeah,
My favorite food?
yeah, your favorite food.
Mexican food?
Yeah,
Burritos?
you wouldn't
No.
guess it. Yeah.
Get out of here. Oh, okay. Let's dive into that because that's more important than money and finances. We'll get to money and finances a little later in the show, but man, I told you, Darwin, that, I mean, today you need to expect the unexpected. There's no telling which direction the conversation's going to blow. So, working at this taqueria, taqueria is how you pronounce it, taqueria.
Yes, taqueria.
Working at a taqueria. Okay. What was your go-to dish?
I mean, so as a kid, it was always the basic lengua, beans, rice, and sour cream. I was like a child, that my child plate, right?
Sounds
I
like
don't know
it.
what. Yeah, it was just delicious. Just the mix of it, I loved it.
You call it lingua?
Yeah, it's tongue, beef tongue.
No, that's okay. I'll take a pass on that. So
Hey man,
we
you
got
don't knock it till
tongue.
you try it. Don't knock it till you try it.
All right. Well, I'll let you prepare it or take me to the spot that's got the best lingua. I'm open-minded. I'll try anything one time,
Oh
but
yeah,
I
man,
don't, that might be one
you'll love it. I'll sneak it into one of your burritos. You won't even know. You won't even know the difference.
of lingua, beans, sour cream, and what else?
And just rice. It was just a
And
basic little
rice.
plate, right?
Interesting. No tortilla, huh? No
No,
guacamole.
that's when I was a kid. I was like when I was what, 5, 6, 7. Once I got older, my go-to plate that my doctor actually had to take away from me was ceviche. I ate ceviche like it was like religious. I'd just have plates and plates of it. Eventually,
Can you explain to the non-Hispanic folks out there what that is?
so ceviche is either shrimp or fish that's cooked. I mean, depends on how you cook it, but usually let it cook with salt, a lot of lime mixed with tomatoes, onions, pieces of jalapeno, like chopped up jalapenos, all mixed in together. And you put it on a tostada. And then you add more salsa, lime, and salt, and just delicious.
So, I mean, even though you are Hispanic, aren't you, Darwin?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So that doesn't mean that Mexican food per se is your favorite dish. Is that your favorite cuisine, like Victor?
To be
Or do you
honest,
prefer like I always want honesty. Yes, to be honest with me. Could be Italian, it could be
I mean, I love food. I can't say I have a favorite food, but my mom's cooking since the restaurant, she was one of the main, I mean, she was like the pillar of the restaurant. So her cooking is home style. So all these people that came to eat at our restaurant were pretty much eating real authentic Mexican food. So yeah, Mexican food I would say is gonna be always be my go-to. It
okay.
is my
So
favorite. Yeah.
what was the bestseller dish that your mother had at the taqueria?
Depends on who you talk to, right? A lot of folks liked their chile rellenos. Those were really good. The enchiladas rojas, michoacanas, which is different style. What else? For me personally, it was camarones al ajo when she would cook those. Those were really good.
What the hell is that?
So it's shrimp cooked in garlic.
Why don't we just say shrimp?
Hey, I'm keeping it authentic.
Yeah, you are.
Uh,
Yeah, translation.
there we go. I'm telling you, this is not your Chili's, your Taco Bell.
I want to go back to lingua. So what? You got beef tongue, cow tongue? What did you?
Yeah.
How is that prepared? How do you prepare something like that to make it taste good?
So I know it has salt. I forgot the actual ingredients. I'd have to ask my mom. It's been a long time, man. But it's marinated in stew. So it's boiled, it's cooked in stew.
How long is it? How long is it marinate or boil in this stew?
Damn. I'd be
I
lying to
would
you
think
if
for
I
a
tell
long
you.
time.
Yeah. I mean, it'd probably take 4 or 5 hours maybe.
That's it.
Yeah,
Not too
I think
bad.
so. About that time. Yeah. Doesn't take that long.
Not bad at all.
Yeah.
What do you miss about working at the taqueria and working with your mother?
Just being around your family. It's a family business. You just build a lot of memories because at the moment you kind of don't realize, but that's like the foundation of your life when you grow up in a restaurant. It's work, but you're around your family, so it's a different vibe. So just being able to, you know, work with family, just being around them 24/7.
What would you
That was
say some of the most valuable or the most valuable, most important, precious takeaways you got from that experience working not just with family, but working in a taqueria in the food industry? What were some of those life lessons that you still hold near and dear to your heart today, that you wouldn't be the person that you are today had it not been for those experiences?
I would say I mean, there's a lot to pin it down. I would say the ability to admire delayed gratification and grit. Because I witnessed my parents, I mean, even as a kid, we would wake up at like 5 in the morning every day and we'd be at the restaurant by 5:30, 6 a.m. I'd have my quick breakfast, help them a bit, then head to school. And then my parents would work from that time up till 9, 10 at night. So from school, I would end up back at the restaurant and just work.
So
So
how old were you when that schedule started? Was that like from the very beginning when you had
yeah, from
diapers all the way up until you were
yep,
on your own?
yes, sir. That's funny because there used to be, I mean, we own the building still. We rent out the restaurant now, right? So it's not like it's a different style food now, and now it's Salvadorian, but still some Mexican mixed in. Um, but growing up, there used to be this spot where they used to hang me on my little jumper, right? And it was right by the cash register. So people would literally watch me grow up in that restaurant.
Wow.
That's another thing, man. About family, not corporate or franchise restaurants. When you go to a family restaurant, you truly like customers are family, people you meet are family. You begin to see the community and it's just different environment. And yeah, it made me want to become somebody for the community because I'm part of that community, you know? I don't know how to explain it. It just makes you look at life completely different.
I can totally relate to what you're saying, with exceptions to some of those rules, as I also grew up in a family-owned business, not in the food business, but my mother owned and operated what started off as an upholstery center in our two-car garage, 1,700 square foot, three bedroom, two bathroom ranch style home. Started pulling staples, reupholstering, the people in the neighborhood, their furniture. And 7 years later, that blossomed into a 10,000 square foot facility where the back half was the upholstery and the front half was the retail operation where, arts and crafts and upholstery and apparel fabrics and the whole 9 yards, where that was the retail operation. And that was my upbringing where, I didn't have a silver spoon in my mouth either. I mean, I grew up and when I was like 10, 11, 12 years old, 13, mowing 2 acres by hand, literally uphill both ways. It wasn't a value, so I can say, yeah, it was uphill both ways. It really was. Hanging sheetrock and cutting bolts of fabric and, really working hard. But so, working in having a community business, seeing those same people come into your store on the daily, knowing, oh, hey, Iris, I know how you doing, Rusty, and, saying hi to the children, the community does become a part of your family. So I understand that. But also, back when we're children, and I'm sure you can agree to this, we didn't understand those schedules and we didn't understand as children why we have to also sacrifice along with our parents and having to be at the store from before sunrise to beyond sunset and putting us to work before we even 16. And, there's a period where I didn't really like my mom and dad too much because,
Oh yeah.
how hard that, they made my brother and I work. However, those were values and characteristics that what they were instilling in somebody like you and me at a very young age to where I am who I am today because of those experiences. I have the work ethic, I have the integrity, I have those morals, I have those values, I have all these benefits that make up my DNA today because of my parents and because of the journey that I went through, the experiences I had when I was a child. And would I trade it for anything? Absolutely not.
I'd go back and do it all over again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would appreciate it much more the second time around though.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's one thing. You think about it now that we're older, I would go back, I would go back in time and because it's in the present moment, you don't recognize it at then, but once you're older, you start to realize, especially when you look back at pictures, those core memories. There's pictures we have thousands of pictures, man. And I go back to those pictures sometimes and I remember those days clearly. I'll remember why I was pissed maybe to even that day, But
Yep.
yeah, it's like it's cool. It's It's hard to explain for those that, didn't have it's a luxury to actually have that. Because if you think about it, a lot of people they don't see their parents until like late at night after they come home from work, or they don't even see them in the morning because they're hustling for them, right?
Yep,
So we're blessed enough to be able to be shown that part of life that not that many people can experience.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Amen. And to be able to work remotely in situations like this where we can, help families from across the country or across the world in the comfort of our own home and have our children close by, I don't take these things for granted.
Oh, no, no, no. Yeah.
So tell me more about this transition. How were you introduced to the financial services industry?
So I had a friend, good friend. His name was Arturo, and he invited me over to I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this that are in the insurance industry. Invited me to a BOM, or even like any multi-level marketing organization. A BOM is a business opportunity meeting. And, I'm fresh out of high school, and, sky's the limit. You don't know much. You don't know the difference between anything. Or not fresh out of high school. This is what, 2020. I was what, 25. So I wasn't fresh out of high school. Man, my time is disordered. I just turned 31, so it
I
feels
was
like,
going to say, I think you're
yeah,
a little off
dude,
on your timeline there,
that's
Darwin.
crazy. Yeah, I just I
Have
had a
another, have
epiphany.
another, have another drink of your coffee.
Yeah, there we go.
Relax. There we go.
No, I'm trying to get the timelines together. But I got invited to a business opportunity meeting, which was in I think it was 2019 when I got invited. And it took me a while to join, but it was with PHP, and they sold me the dream. The fast cars, money, just what everybody gets sold on when you join a
Okay, now
business.
this is important. So I'm going to stop you for a moment here and let's talk a little bit about PHP
Hmm.
because PHP is one of the larger or largest, again, for previous shows though, has have tuned in. I call those multi-level insurance marketing schemes or gigs. Victor and I talked about it briefly in the show before last, where it's that three-legged stool, and I refer to Marcus Lemon as how in order to have a solid ethical business model, it's about the people, it's about the product, and it's about the process. But when you get hooked up in a model like that, where they recruit agents by the thousands on a monthly basis, I mean, it is literally a revolving door, churn and
Hmm.
burn. People get sold this dream. They attend those business opportunity meetings, and 90% of those meetings are about dream building, and you can have all this money, and you can go on these trips, and you can drive these cars, and the problem is you stop dreaming, you stop believing. So they sell you the dream. Oh, by the way, you're selling insurance too. So people pursue it, they get their license. Tell me about your experience once you pursued it, once you got your license and you're on board, what that journey, what that experience was like for you.
So for me, when I first I got licensed ASAP. It took about 2 weeks. I mean, in California, I think the passing grade is, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's 70%.
It's 70 most
Yeah.
places, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So I passed it, flying colors, got licensed, and then I attended the meetings, and I got turned off like right away, just because of the approach. I had to go approach friends and family, right? So I ended up leaving for a while, and I that's when I went back into IT. I didn't give up on insurance though. Like I really did like the concept about it, right? Um,
So this was 2020 when you were first introduced to it and you pursued it.
yeah.
How long did you do the PHP thing before you said, nah, I don't think this is the right organization for you. I'm going to go back to IT while I continue to find the right opportunity. So how long were you associated or affiliated with PHP before you
So
realized?
I got locked in with PHP. I believe it was 2019 because that's when I started my internship at VMware. And then once into 2020, I decided, I think it was June of 2020 or 2021. I can't really remember. I have to go back and look at all like the timestamps. But let's just say it was 2020, June of 2020. I actually went back Yeah, it was 2020 because my internship started in 2019 and I got a job in IT that I think it was that December of 2020. So I was 6 months into IT and then I tried to get converted, right? Um, and I got converted and I started working with PHP a little bit closer. I started taking it more serious, going to all these business opportunity meetings. Once 2021 hit, June of 2021, that's when I decided to officially like just dive in head first, right? So I locked in June 2021, if I'm not mistaken. And once I'd made that decision of locking in, I opened up my book of business, meaning I opened up my warm market. I filled down, they ask you for a list of 25, 100, whatever it is, right? And what they do is they'll have you call and tell them, hey, can you help me with a training meeting, right? And once they help you with this training meeting, the whole purpose is to get a sale, right? You teach them about like the IUL, Rule 72, just things that people really don't know about, right? Which is great information, right? So I locked into the system. I started recruiting. I started posting ads, social media. I started selling the dream, right? Because that's what my upline was teaching me. And I decided not to hold back anymore, right? So it didn't take me that long. It took me like about a month and a half. I became director in the company. That's what they give you title, right? So I started with a 30% contract, jumped to a 60%. Once I locked in, it took like a month, month and a half, right? I had probably like 25 to 30 agents, right? Locked in, I was making good money, and then everything came crashing down. So how long was I with PHP? Probably like a year, year and a half, and then once everything started crashing down, I stepped away again and went on a spiritual journey.
How did it go on? How did it crash down? Was that the pandemic? Was it pandemic related or
Oh,
something
actually,
else?
it was something else. So it was, believe it or not, I was hosting meetings myself on during the pandemic. Probably shouldn't have been doing it, right? I was young, dumb,
Were they in
but
person?
yeah, in person. I didn't care. I was like, this is a conspiracy, this and that. Like, I'm not gonna fall for this crap, whatever. You know, past is the past. But I would invite people to business opportunity meetings. We would host business opportunity meetings. I would run appointments, in-person appointments. Um, and I was growing very fast, not in like as a team, but also as a person, because I embodied the whole PHP spirit, which is recruit, train and sell, right? And I really wanted my team to win. So other teams in that same office started asking me for help, right? And my upline at the time kind of let me hanging. So I didn't have nobody to teach me anymore. And once I started picking up on everything, I started realizing what he was teaching me wasn't the correct way, right?
What
So
were you being taught? What were you being taught, and how was it not correct?
when it comes to getting paid as an insurance agent, you get paid on the target premium, right? Meaning on the amount of insurance you sell, right? So the way this guy was teaching me how to illustrate these policies was completely incorrect, right? It was loaded with surrender charges and we were selling it for more insurance than cash value based, right? But when I first started, they weren't teaching they didn't teach me the correct way, right? They just taught me how to illustrate it and sell it, right? And as a newer person in the industry, it's heartbreaking because when you come from, the way I grew up with integrity, it destroyed me, right? Because I believed in somebody that's been in the industry longer than I have, that was supposed to teach me what was correct and ended up teaching me the incorrect stuff.
So let me stop for and the whole premise behind this show, not this show, but the Financial Happy Hour podcast show, is all about financial education and financial literacy. Okay, so Darwin's explaining is that, in his first venture with this big, huge multi-level insurance scheme or arrangement, He is, just he's like the majority of agents who pursue something here. This is the way we do it, which is more agent favored, not client favored. And when it comes to IULs, Index Universal Life Insurance policies, there are 50,264 different ways that you can structure those plans. And you can structure plans to where it's going to weigh in your favor. It's going to structure plans where it's going to weigh heavily in the client's favor, and then middle of the road here. What you're telling me is you slowly started learning that you were not structuring these plans the proper way, the way that it would really, the client comes out in the best position possible. As you were saying, you're loaded with all kinds of fees and higher commissions, and the client would get the short change of it. They'd be sold this dream, but they were
Mhm.
really buying a fallacy. Is that a pretty good assessment?
Yeah, they were basically just buying insurance. It wasn't designed to do what it's supposed to do. And that's the huge problem. That's a huge problem in the
So
industry.
how did you start learning that you were not structuring these correctly?
Then I started asking questions. So I'm a
Oh,
person.
you started. Was not never ask questions, Darwin.
Yeah, once I started questioning certain things and the answers were so vague or they like didn't know how to answer it, my gut was telling me, all right, there's something that's not correct here.
So you were deferring to your upline and
Hmm.
to your upper management and trying to understand the policies, the procedures, the systems, the structure. You're just asking questions, which you're not supposed to do that. And when you're not getting answers or getting watered down, skirted answers, that's when you're telling me something didn't seem right in your gut.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. It's exactly that. The questions that I asked and the answers that I got, I was like, dude, you think I'm like you think I'm stupid, but I'm paying attention, man. Like this is now that I like once I woke up, I woke up.
So clearly you did something about it, or else you wouldn't be where you're at today.
Oh,
But
of
what
course.
did that process look like for you to start that new journey and finding the right partnership that is built on clients and integrity, honesty, transparency, and putting clients in the best position possible? Tell me a little bit about that.
So when everything fell apart, that entire office literally left. Like everybody in the office left once the cat was out of the bag, right? Because obviously when you start seeing the way people were primarily that the way I was being treated towards the end and all the information that I was obtaining, people saw reality. Like I guess I was there. I think I was there to disrupt it, to show the reality, and then I ended up kind of being depressed for a while. It was like about 6 months I got into like, contract work. I felt really bad, obviously, that entire time. But there was a couple people in the office that reached out to me one day. And it was right before I actually prayed to God. So I prayed to God that He'd put people in my life that will show me how to, correct all these wrongs that were done during that time frame, right? And little you know, my buddy Carlos, which I met through PHP, reached out to me. He said, "Hey, we've been looking for you." Him and my other buddy Moises. We found a couple people that can show us how to build what we're trying to build, which is ultimately what we do now with Friends in Finance Santa Cruz Venture, right? I met Sanan, I'm not sure if you know Sanan, and James through that process. And in that time frame, I started going on spiritual retreats, right? Ceremonies, just connecting with a deeper part of yourself. And at the same time, my mentors appeared, which was again Sanan and James that were teaching me about annuities, IULs, and just how to really structure the whole financial bundle with these products. Through that process is how then I ended up meeting Victor years later, which was probably 2 years ago now, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and that's how I ended up here. Like, I mean, it's a long story. But that's all in a nutshell. I prayed, Rusty, and I prayed to God, and God answered, and He put people in my life that, taught me what I need to know in order to be able to help people.
Tell me about that experience meeting Victor for the first time.
So I reached out to James because I wanted to set up my family trust. And James connected me with Victor. Had a conversation with Victor. Victor educated me on the family trust. Um, and then James was letting me know what they were trying to build at the time. I was selling, like most agents, I was selling mortgage protection at the time because I was still in the industry, but just selling insurance now, not into the whole retirement phase and all that. 6 months later, from the point that I was first introduced to Victor, I reached out to him and I sat down with him to create our family trust. Once I sat down with him, he offered me the opportunity, right? He showed me, invited me to the first what's it called, that first live event in Texas. Um, and I said, you know what? Yeah, I'll give it a
Was
try.
that August of last year?
2 years ago now.
2 years. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's where I met it was a small group. Um, but he invited me onto the calls, the Thursday night calls, and into the live in person, right? And I already knew about the Better Bank account, thanks to Sinan and James, which are disciples of Victor Mojica, right? And Victor taught them, and they taught me. So I already had a awareness of the whole system, right? Was I over there, selling it? No, because I wasn't feeling like I was ready to present that certain product yet, right? So I sat on it for a while and I said, you know what, let's give it a try. Ended up buying my ticket, went to the event in Texas, met John. Once I met John and I saw, the partnership that was forming and the opportunity and the knowledge between both of them, I said it's a no-brainer, right? This is where I'm going to learn everything I need to learn.
But
Like,
if you could point out the one thing that really resonated the most to you, like this is it, what would that be during that moment?
they
What
weren't full of
stood out about that moment that you're like, this is where I need to be. This is the place. These are the guys.
that they're not full of shit. Like, I don't know how to explain it, Rusty. When you get fed a bunch, you meet a lot of people and it's all this rah, this, you know, shit, make a lot of money, this and that. Like you start getting numb to it. Like that's another same shit, different company. Like, what's the point, right? Excuse my French.
Oh, you're
But
fine.
when I met John and Victor, it was straight, facts. So it's just no no BS, actual knowledge being shared.
They could answer
No,
your questions.
oh hell yeah, 100%. Right. And believe it or not, man, it's crazy because I was already coming across cases that I was working on where people had millions of dollars in 401ks or they were looking to retire soon. So I already knew how to do most of this stuff, right? But the moment that these cases started appearing in my life is the moment that my relationship with Victor and John started really to manifest. Right? So it's crazy that saying that says when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. Right? It literally that's like what happens alongside the clients that were appearing in my life at the time, right? So yeah, it just all lined up kind of perfectly. I don't know how it's just a very, very weird how all that lined up, man. But it was great, and I'm so thankful that I'm here.
Indeed.
Yes.
So we're gonna pick up where we left off there, and I'm gonna start a new conversation over here, and then
Uh-huh.
we're gonna marry the two
Marin, all right.
yeah, later on down the road. So tell me about all the different products or the different markets from 2019 to the present. You mentioned mortgage protection. Um, I know you've done annuities, IULs, maybe final expense. I don't know. So tell me about all the different products that you're versed in that you've helped clients into. and then I'll got another question for you on that.
All right. So I've held final expense, mortgage protection, IULs, annuities. I mean, everything. PNC. I got my PNC license as well.
Okay. What'd you do
Commercial.
with that?
I got it. The reason I got my commercial license is because of the better bank account. Um, Coming from again, it'll tie back right back to my family. Watching my family, build a business. Mexicans, I'm gonna just be realistic. Mexicans know how to work. Whether it's Mexicans, blacks, just the minority knows how to work. What most of the minority doesn't know how to do is set funds aside for the future. And
100%.
that is what, the main trigger for me because I saw my parents build a amazing business. Luckily, we have real estate, but if it wasn't for that, they wouldn't have what we have today,
Right.
right? And then I think about all these other mom and pop shops that is a backbone to America, man. Corporate ain't no backbone to America. Neither is all these franchises. It's the mom and pop shops, the small coffee shops, the small restaurants, construction workers, you name it. That is America right there. And that's a way that I was like, well, okay, how can I come ahead and, provide a better service to them, like help them, actually help them. And I was like, well, if I get my commercial insurance license, I'll be able to protect the asset they have, but then I'll be able to show them how to make money on top of that. So it's just
So for
combining the two.
it's important for the eyes to understand that like when you say final expense, that's a learning curve. That's one sub niche market of a market, life insurance. It's a small sector of life insurance, but there's a lot to know about final expense burial insurance, underwriting and products and waiting periods and things of that nature. Mortgage protection, which is a fancy way for saying term,
Mhm.
designed to cover the mortgage of your home. But you have all these extra bells and whistles that you can throw on and customize it. And that's a learning curve. Annuities, that's a whole different solar system.
Oh
That
yeah.
takes about a good year before you start having a pretty good handle on that market and those products. IULs, that's a whole nother solar system. And so, you got all these different markets and products that you have that you're well versed in, that you have experience in. How did you become the annuity guy?
When I guess Victor just tells me at the right place at the
Oh,
right.
this is Victor is doing, huh?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm telling you, I was bringing cases to him, and to be honest, I don't think Victor knows, and if he watches this, I hope he's watching, right? I was kind of like testing him in a way. I wanted to see what he would tell me what we should do with these clients, right? And I would sit there and just, analyze them, question them, and it was just I knew I had an idea, right? But he solidified everything. And on top of that, he enhanced it, right? He enhanced my knowledge of looking at it in a different way as well, right?
Let's
But
talk. Let's talk. Oh, finish your thought. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
So let's talk a little bit about annuities. Keep it on a kindergarten level, but what is an annuity?
So basically what an annuity is, it's an exchange between an insurance company and a client for a guaranteed income in the future. That's like the basic understanding, right? It's a way for the client to go ahead and secure the money that they already accumulate over the years, right? For a guaranteed outcome.
So
That's like,
what you're
like
saying, it's like an initial one-time deposit
it
into
can
an
be,
account of some sort.
yes, it can be a one-time deposit, it can be a deposit over time. There's different kinds, but in hindsight, it's just an exchange of funds for a guaranteed income in the future.
Okay. How many different variations of annuities are out there?
I mean, from the top of my head right now that I know, I count five. There's probably more. I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
How are these annuities unique from each other? And how do you know which annuity is the right annuity for your client?
Depends, right, on the outcome of the goal, right? So the difference between them, you got fixed annuities, which it's basically a fixed account that gives you a fixed rate. You got MIGAs, multi-year guaranteed annuity, right, which is a form of a fixed annuity. You got SPIA, single premium indexed annuities. You got fixed index annuities. You got variable annuities, right? And they're all designed to do something different for the client, right?
Okay. What do you
Uh,
find is the most common annuity that you help your clients into?
it depends, right? So far, fixed index annuities has been the commodity, right? But it all depends on what the client needs at the time, right? Uh, it really just depends on the client and if they even need it.
Okay. What would you say? Give me a description of a client or an ideal client where an annuity makes sense for them
So,
versus the other financial products that are out there on the market.
so an ideal client is someone that's near or in retirement that needs supplemental income or guaranteed income to supplement their lifestyle in the future. Someone that wants to secure a portion of their assets to make sure they have money coming in to protect themselves for the rest of their lives. So that's basically the basics, bare bones minimum of it, right? Um, just protecting money, losses.
Do you have to be able to qualify for one of those?
Financially, suitability, yes,
Okay,
right?
tell me a little bit about that. So, health-wise, health is not a factor then, correct?
No.
Okay, so
So,
tell me
so
about some of the suitability factors.
so when it comes to suitability, when it comes to annuities, there's the words is I think the word you have liquid assets and you have illiquid, right? That's the word, right? Liquid. I have a hard time saying it, but an annuity is illiquid, meaning that you can't liquid like it's you can't really have there's no liquidity in it, right? There's you're locking it up for a guarantee. You're exchanging it for something that's guaranteed, right? So when it comes to suitability, you have to have a certain amount of assets that you have access to, so that way you're not placed in a position where, hey, like I need access to my money and you can't access it, right? So when it comes to annuities, suitability is a huge thing.
Okay,
That explained it in a very simple form.
gotcha. What are the things that, what are some of the things that you have found that you've enjoyed the most helping clients um, into annuities?
The best part is um, asking them the golden question um, is first figuring out what type of accounts they have, right? Whether it's a 401k, IRA, where they're saving their money to, and get an idea of, where they're at, right? And the golden question that I love asking is, have you ever calculated where you're going to end up at retirement? What type of income you're going to have, what tax bracket you're going to be in, and how much money you're going to need in order to retire?
What percentage of people don't even have an answer when you ask them that question?
It like 95%.
90%? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's scary. And some people they have like I've sat with people that have millions. I've sat with people that have 50K in the account. They're near retirement, like 5 years away from retirement. So it's a different conversation with each, right? Some you have to be really realistic with them, and you can't really help if they don't have anything. And then others, you got to be realistic with them. They have other problems, which is going to be taxes, their beneficiaries, the tax on the beneficiaries. It's a monster, right? So the funnest part about, the annuity is just the product. The funnest part about it that I say is trying to figure out how we're able to really help them with the best outcome for the best outcome, right? And even if annuity does make sense in their portfolio. because sometimes it doesn't make sense for them, right? Sometimes they don't need it, right? Others, they probably do. And then again, it all ends up on what the client want, the needs of the client and the wants of the client.
So let me paraphrase. Is an annuity basically a good way to explain it is people have a lump sum of cash, whether it be in a 401k and they're past a certain age, they come across an inheritance, a life insurance policy, they receive the death claim. They've got a lot of money they've been, digging up in the backyard and burying it there. And now they've got, a surplus of money to say, hey, I need to do something with it. And so what they're looking to do is take this cash and put it somewhere where the money can go to work for them, but also provide a guaranteed stream of income for them. But it's going to make that amount of money grow even further to where it's going to grow over time, which means you're receiving income while it's growing.
Yeah, yes and no. It depends on the product, right? Because if you go ahead and if you put it in a fixed index annuity, you're deferring the income, so you're allowing it to grow to eventually turn into a lifetime income. Versus if you go ahead and exchange it into a MIGA or a fixed annuity, you're locking it in for a certain period of time for a guaranteed rate, right? Um, versus putting it into a single, I think it's SPIA, single premium index annuity, and that's going to give you a payment for the rest of your life. You exchange $1 million for a certain amount of money till the day you die, right? So it depends on the product that you're putting these clients into. That's why, again, the suitability, it's a very, very important knowing, you know, what they need. And you don't want to lock up all their money, right? It's just a portion of what it is to the puzzle that you need to figure out for them.
So tell me about your current ventures these days outside of being Mr. Annuity, thanks to Mr. Victor Mojica. Describe what your ideal type of client looks like, um, and how are you able to help them with their financial needs?
So my typical client, I'm a fish. I like, they say riches are in the niches. I like working with nurses and with business owners, right?
Why nurses?
Nurses tend to switch around jobs a lot, so they have
Well,
multiple,
that's true.
right? They have multiple accounts, right? They have multiple 401ks and all this stuff, right? So I'm able to be able to educate them on how they can go ahead and grow that money safely, right? On top of that, they're in the front lines, right? And the products that we offer, like everything we do, Rusty, is risk-free, insured, and tax-free, right? So one of the main products that I guess I don't even see it as a product. I just see it as a great benefit to have is the living benefits, right? So since nurses see, I mean, day to day, day in, day out, they see a lot of stuff, and they're underprotected. A lot of companies don't offer living benefits. They don't offer something that's actually going to help them in case a real emergency hits. So that's why I like working with nurses. Now, with the business owner type of side, like I said before, business owners, they just focus on making a profit, right? They're making money, but they don't think about shit, what if I cut my finger off and I can't work? Or like uh I have a heart attack and I can't work, right? Or they don't even think about their employees in that way because they haven't been educated on that purpose, right? So that's my ideal client, working with those that don't have the knowledge that I can share with them and allow them,
So, what do you tell that 40-year-old nurse who's on her seventh job, in the past 15 years? So she has seven other 401ks with seven other companies. She's not 59 and a half yet. What kind of advice do you give that person on what to do with those 401ks that are just sitting there doing nothing?
well, I can't give advice, right? Because I
What
am not,
recommendations, what suggestions do you give them? What do you tell
well,
them?
my approach, again, my approach to that is I ask them, well, what are you doing? Like, what's the outcome? What do you want those 401ks for? Is getting an idea of why do they have the 401k? Why are they using it? And then golden question. Well, have you ever actually seen what that can potentially yield you when you decide to retire? Do you know when you want to retire? Like those questions right there allow you to really understand them and get an idea of who they are, what they want, what they value, what plans they have for the future. And based off of all of that, you're really able to sit down and now take all their accounts and use historical data to see what the future might look for them, right? And at the end of the day, if they're comfortable with where they're heading, then you did your job and you at least gave them clarity to what they're doing and they can continue doing what they're doing. But if they have no clue or they thought they were going to end up somewhere different and now you're able to show them like, hey, you might not end up at your goal, then you're actually able to implement these strategies that we have, which is our TFRAs, tax for retirement account, better bank account, and ultimately annuities if it makes sense based on the client's portfolio and their risk factor, right? Um, because all we're doing with annuities is just removing risk to allow it to grow safely, right? That's going to add to their whole entire portfolio in the future when they're going to need the money.
So I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So you got that 40-year-old, she has seven annuities, average balance around 15 grand, right? And she
Uh-huh.
says, oh, I think I want to put all those seven different 401ks into an annuity. Can I do that? And she's 40. What do you tell her?
Well, you could put it into an annuity, but why? The first question is why, right?
Just so I
For
can have
me,
all my eggs in a basket, just to
for me,
simplify things.
what I use is the rule of 110. You take 110, subtract it by 40, and then that's the amount of assets that should and shouldn't be at risk. So the percentage that shouldn't be at risk, you show them, move them off the table and show them how they can protect it and grow it, safely for the next 20, 25 years, right? And then they continue to go ahead and take some risk, right? Because again, like, there's nothing wrong with the market, right? Sometimes the market can perform great, right? And if you have time on this earth, you want to take a little bit of risk to try to get a little bit more, right? Um, but if for someone that's older, you want to remove risk from your portfolio. So it just depends on the timeline. It depends on the client, their risk factor, the amount of money they have, and mostly what the client wants. And you just educate them on what it is, what's out there, and you show them the variety of options that they have and you let them make the decision, right? So it's more you really are a fiduciary, even though we're not considered fiduciaries, right? When you take that approach, you really are looking out for the client instead of trying to say, hey, put it all into an annuity, you get fat commission, or hey, put it all into let me manage the money for you. I get paid 1%, 2%, whether you win or lose, but that's the difference of when you're being realistic and you're being human about, a person's finances and you're talking to them and really trying to help them. You're not going to lock up or take up all their money. No, you're going to try to figure out what's the best approach for them and make sure
Absolutely.
that, yeah,
So, Darwin, we know you're located in the state of California. What other states are you licensed in?
yeah, I got to check. Multiple states. I'm working on getting a license right now in Hawaii and on in Florida next, but let's see. So far, I am licensed in 9 states. So Arizona, California, Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Texas, Tennessee, and South Carolina.
All right. So, if you're in any of those states and you want to reach out to Darwin Aguilera and utilize his expertise, how would somebody be able to make contact with you?
They can you can find me all over social media. Type in Darwin Aguilera and you'll either find my LinkedIn, you'll find my Facebook, you'll find Instagram, or
So, in other words, he's not going to give you the answer. You got to do your research. You got to find this Darwin guy on social media because he's not going to give you his phone number. Where are you?
they don't need my number. They can if they truly need to reach out to me, they can, I want them to do their research.
There we go. Got it.
Yeah,
You gotta want it.
yeah.
Got to earn it. Very cool. So 4:57, Darwin. Did it feel like we've already been at this for an hour now?
No, it feels much less. I feel like we just started.
I know, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, we had a
crazy.
lot of fun on this, man. I really enjoyed all the Mexican food talk. That was
Hey, you're gonna did the other
lengua,
part, the other yeah,
lengua.
lengua. You know what's really good? I don't know if you've tried it. Is tripa,
How do you spell that?
tripa, Tripa.
Okay.
I don't know if I should tell you what it is. You're probably gonna be like, oh no, it's
I'm one of those guys. You're better off me not knowing. And
okay.
if it looks good, I'll eat it, and then you can
Mhm.
tell me afterwards.
Just
But I
ask,
also
go ahead, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, but it has to look appetizing because if it looks gross to me, I'm not gonna put it in my mouth.
No, yeah. Again, it depends where you go ahead and order it, right? And if they do have it, ask them to make it very toasty, extra toasty.
No, when I come visit you out in California, Darwin, I'm just gonna let you be my tour guide and my food guide as well, and I'm gonna have you shove stuff in my face and say, "Here, just eat it."
Yeah.
Other than I'm not gonna go explore stuff like that on my own.
Oh man, I'm gonna tell you after what it is. Dude, you'll be surprised. I've had people say that they don't want to taste it, and then they taste it, and they're like, "Dude, that was really good." And I tell them what it is, and they're like horrified. But I was like, "Hey, was it good?" And they're like,
I'm
"Yeah."
not even gonna Google it, man. I'm just gonna leave that one alone. Yeah.
Oh man.
Make sure we have a nice strong margarita in hand. So if I don't like it, I can just turn around and try my sorrows.
I just came across a drink that's really good and really refreshing. It's a basic drink. You get a Mexican Coke, you get some white tequila, some salt, and some lime, and then some carbonated water. So you put some tequila in, put some carbonated water, some Coke, squeeze a lime and some salt, mix it all together, and it's refreshing.
Huh.
Really good.
How much salt would you say you push?
I mean,
Just a
depends. Just sprinkle. I mean, everybody has their own preferences. Like I love lemon, man. A lot of people don't, or lime lemon.
oh
To
yeah,
me, there's no difference to lime or lemon to me. I love it either way. There's certain
right.
people that don't like lemon, right?
Yep.
So it's preferences.
Well, darling, it's been real. It's been fun. When you put it together, it's been real fun. Brother, and awesome to be able to call you my business partner, to be joined hand in hand in this battle to helping people with their financial needs and putting people and their families in the absolute best position possible. And I think, my biggest takeaway for today is getting to know you on a more personal level and hearing about, your upbringing and your mother and the restaurant and how you tie that all into the community and doing what's right for people and why PHP. And I'm not, these podcasts are not about discrediting other companies or organizations that are out there. It just wasn't the right model for you. I think that that's fair to say without trying to throw them under the bus. But at the end of the day, it's all about doing what's right for people. Looking after their best interest, and what goes around comes around. And I
No, yeah.
can't think of what a better way it is to live a life and to join forces with people who are like-minded with you, with morals and their values and their characteristics. And so, with that being said, Darwin, what a pleasure, what a privilege it is to call you my business partner, to have you on my show, and to call you my brother from another mother.
Likewise, Rusty.
Absolutely.